You've probably realised I'm not in the forest today, I'm not along the coastline. I'm actually back out in the city of downtown Vancouver today. Now the reason for that is it's absolutely rained all morning. That's all it's done, tip it down with rain. Got up this morning, looked out the window. Going to any locations today was just out of the question. So what I've done is I've waited for the rain to stop. We have got a dry period and I want to spend the rest of the day trying to capture some more images on the street and just make the most of my weekend. Now because I work a normal job Monday to Friday, I've really to rely on good conditions when it comes to the weekend when I've got my 2 days off, and that just hasn't happened today. Now I came out last week, I took a lot of video, I took a few images, I was really pleased with them. It was a lovely day, it was a lovely blue sky day, but when it came to vlogging I just wasn't feeling it, and sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's just nice to have a wander and just take images and see what you capture on the streets. So that's what I did. Now because I took a lot of video, I've got the Pocket 2, which is a really handy piece of kit for when I'm doing street photography. It means I can take video on the fly. So I did take a lot of video last week along with those images. So what I've decided to do is I want to continue my walk around the streets and see what I can come up with today. Now I took the 85mm out last week. I just wanted a nice easy day, and having the 85mm allows us to do that because it means I don't have to get too close to subjects when it comes to photographing them. Now last week all I was concentrating on was interesting subjects on the street. I was doing a lot more standing on street corners and just waiting for subjects to come to me, because a lot of the time I tend to walk a lot. I do quite a few kilometres when I'm doing my street photography, up and down streets and trying different locations. But last week I tried something a bit different and I camped out on corners a lot more. So what I want to do today is I want to just have a general walk about downtown, but I want to include the video that I captured last week. I want to show you how nice the conditions were, even though I was too lazy to vlog. But I also want to show you the images as well. I got some really good images last week, and it was a good example of how to use the 85. You can have a nice easy day with the 85 because you don't have to be close to those subjects. I'm going to mix up the video. You're going to see video that I took last week along with those images, and hopefully we'll capture some more images today. So I'm just going to head back onto the streets and enjoy the rest of the day. Now we've came to an area where I was last week. Obviously the conditions were a lot different, it was a lot sunnier. But today will be a good example of working in different conditions, working with a lot of light when you've got blue sky, but also working in overcast conditions. Now because the location works so well is you've got a junction and you've got traffic lights, so people are standing waiting to cross the street, and it helps you to slow down. You simply just have to be vigilant and look out and pick out interesting subjects. Now I've got a store over to my left hand side. It's a Tom Lee's store. It had a yellow sign. Now last week I noticed every now and again you got a yellow bus pulling up because there's a bus stop there. So what I've done is I captured the bus along with the yellow sign, so there was a connection between the yellow bus and the yellow sign. So that's a bit of an insight to how my mind works. But what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to venture over to where that junction is and just stand about for a while and see what images I can come up with today. that's what I'm looking for, interesting subjects, characters, people that stand out, not just anyone. So it'll either be the colour they're wearing, they'll be smartly dressed, or they'll just be interesting in general. Now I took a photograph of a group of ladies on the corner of the street. I really liked the jacket that one of the ladies was wearing. She was smartly dressed. But I also captured a guy in the background, if you noticed. He'd spotted us and he stuck his thumb up. So it added a bit of interest to that image. Now when you're camping out on the corner of the streets, there's always a temptation to walk on and go somewhere else. But guaranteed, you'll put the camera away and someone will walk up that's really interesting. So don't quit straight away. Sit it out and just see who you come across. So I have been here for a while now, so I'm going to carry on, try a different area and see what else we can come across. So I tried for some more images on that corner. Now it was great because I could spend 15 minutes on each side of the street. I had the 4 corners to choose from, and I just simply waited for interesting subjects to come along. Now while I was doing a piece to camera, I looked further down the street and noticed these 2 girls in green. They had these lovely green suits on. So when I finished the video, I quickly got to the other side of the street to grab a shot of them. It's a good way of showing you how colour really does stand out better on those overcast days. So always be aware of that. Now that's why a lot of the time when I've got really bright conditions, I tend to go for black and white. Now we've got the old guy, he had an interesting hat on, he had the red shoes. It was just interesting, so that's all I'm looking for today. Not only have I got the 85mm focal length, so that gives us a longer reach, it's a lot easier because all I'm wanting to do is pinpoint interesting subjects. You remember in my last video when I took that shot of the lady in the bike racks, it was more about the surroundings, it was more about the structures. You had the circle of the bike racks, the triangular shapes, which mimicked the triangle shape that her legs formed, but you also had that bus wheel in the background. So what that means is the subject didn't have to be as interesting, it was more about the whole scene and joining the dots as an image itself. Now we came to an area where I got a couple of shots last week, and I'll be able to give you a good example of the lighting conditions compared to what it's like today. Now today the scene still looks great, but it's a lot flatter. There's no light in there, there's no shadows. Now last week what I done was I used the ceiling that's above the pavement there, above the sidewalk, also used the side of the building, which created a tunnel to people and subjects walking towards us. Now not only that, because we had that bright sunlight, it created interesting shadows and shapes on the floor itself, and there was a lot more contrast there, so it made for the great black and white. So for the second shot I took, I actually used this curved area of glass on the corner of the street. It was really interesting, the fact that you had the light on the pavement and it was really lit up. Any subjects walking up that pavement, they really stood out, so I was happy with that image that I got. So I'm just walking to my next location where I probably got my favourite image of all last week while I was out, and the light played a big role in that. So that's what I want to say to you next. If you've got bright conditions or you've got overcast conditions before you go out, decide what you're going to photograph before you go out, and decide on your focal length at the same time, because they're both important. So what I tend to do is, if I've got those blue sky days, I'm going out with the impression of doing black and white. Sometimes I'll want to work on framing, so I'm not looking for interesting subjects, I'm just wanting to put subjects within that framing. Or other times I'll come out with the 85 or the 35, and I'll just concentrate like I am today. I'll just concentrate on interesting subjects. So I came to the area where I got my favourite shot last week, and I was really pleased with how it turned out. Now, last week it was a lot different. You can see today it's very flat, there's no contrast there, there's no shadows. But when I was here last week, I was actually having a coffee, finished my coffee, came to the end of this road here, and I actually crossed over to the other side of the street and walked down the sidewalk. Now, when I done that, I got a lot further down and realised there was a guy walking up, and he had a giant teddy bear on his shoulders. It looked brilliant, it really did. Now, already taking into account that there was light on the end of the crossing there, I wanted to make sure that I got back in time to capture him actually stepping into that light. So that's why light was important on that particular day to get that shot. So what I had to do was I had to double back, run up the sidewalk, run across the street, get my bag set down, get my camera out, waiting for him to step into that light. Now I got one shot and one shot only. You know, as soon as I stepped into that light, we stepped out of it again. So that's why sometimes when you've got those contrasty scenes and you've got light in certain areas, waiting for subjects to stand in that light can make an image come together. And the fact that he had that giant teddy bear on his shoulders, it was brilliant, it was different, and it was interesting. So it's something that's going to make the viewer really look at that image, wondering who the guy is, and also looking at that giant teddy bear on his shoulders. Now, don't be too focused on the street corner itself. Always be aware of who's approaching the street corner. You know, you can look further up the street. If you see an interesting subject, you can be ready for when the subject gets to the crossing. Now, they are going to stop there for a short period of time waiting to cross the road, so you don't have to worry too much about movement and people moving about. Just be ready to capture that person once they're waiting at the crossing. Now, I said to you last time, I don't like to use high-speed burst. I'm shooting in single shot today because when you get the shot and you get back home, it's an achievement when you know that you've got it in one shot. You can take more away from that image. And the other thing, you're not putting up the shutter count on your camera. So I've actually spotted a guy on the opposite side of the street. He's wearing a really colourful tracksuit. He's wearing sunglasses, but I'm also wanting to use the road as well, because where the bus lane is, it's actually painted red, so it's adding interest to that foreground as well as the subject in the background. Now, behind the subject, it's just plain glass and it's quite dark, and with that colour is really standing out. So I'm going to cross over the other side of the road now and get that image and see what else I can get while I hang around this street corner. So I managed a couple of images there. Now, the street corner where I was at, it was quite quiet to be honest, so coming across interesting subjects was few and far between, but I've had a great day out. Now I am going to continue my walk, but I have decided to call it an end to today's video. It's been nice to show you the images along with the video that I captured last week, and I hope it's gave you some ideas for your own photography. You know, being able just to relax and have an easy day out. Use a longer focal length so you don't have to get as close to subjects. It's just a nice relaxing way to take images, and sometimes when I'm not vlogging, that's what I enjoy to do. I just enjoy having a quiet walk about with the camera. We made it out considering the rainfall that we had this morning. I do hope to get out and do some landscape photography very soon, but for now I've been able to bring you another video on the streets. So until next time, from me in downtown Vancouver, as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.